Sorry for the delay in getting started. The court is going to take up the next case in the court's docket, CV 2011478. This is in the interest of Memphis Morgan, a child. The case is set for a permanency hearing and pretrial today. The hearing is being conducted pursuant to emergency orders of the Texas Supreme Court via Zoom video conference. Participating in the hearing today on behalf of the department is engaged case manager Wynn Garms, supervisor Amanda Outlaw, and regional attorney, Brown County attorney Shane Britton. The mother of the child is Jada Brown, and she's participating in the hearing with her attorney Patrick Hurd. The father of the child is Jacob Morgan, and he is participating in the hearing along with his attorney Emily Miller. The attorney and guardian ad litem for the child is Chelsea Timmons, and she is participating in the hearing today. The caregivers for the child are Cynthia and David DeLeon, and I believe both of them are participating in the hearing today. And the child is present with them in the hearing. All right, if we're ready to proceed, I'm going to ask Mr. and Mrs. DeLeon, Ms. Hayden, Mr. Morgan, Ms. Garms, and Ms. Brown, if each of you could raise your right hands, please. Each of you solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give today before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Britton, if we're ready to proceed.
If y'all call Ms. Garms. Ms. Garms, you're the permanency case manager for 2 Engage.
Yes, that is correct.
You prepared and filed with the court a permanency report dated June the 28th of 2021.
Yes, that's correct.
That information still true? All of the information included in that report still true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
And my understanding is that today you are recommending to the court that the child be placed with Mr. Morgan on a monitored return.
That is correct.
And that's what you believe is in the child's best interest?
Yes.
And Mr. Morgan has done everything that you've asked him to do, and you feel comfortable that that's an appropriate placement for the child?
Yes, I do.
Bill, have you discussed the possibility of a monitor return to dad with mom?
Yes, it's been discussed with her.
And what does she think about that?
Well, she's not happy about it. She would rather he stay with her mom.
Okay. And I mean, that's understandable, correct?
Yes. Yes.
How is mom doing?
Mom is doing good. She has got a good job. She's completed some of her services. She hasn't completed a mental health or a psychosocial, but she said she's working on getting that completed. She has tested negative to 4 of her drug testing, and she has began supervised visitation with the child.
I'll pass witness.
Let's see, Mr. Howard, any questions?
Wait, y'all hold it. Oh.
Judge, I guess my answer is maybe. Is it possible that I could maybe have about 3 minutes with my client in a breakout room?
Oh, absolutely. Sure. You'll stand by for just a second. Let me get that set up. And Ms. Miller, did you mean to meet with your client while I'm setting this up for any reason?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. And thank you. Ms. Brown, I'm going to send to you and Mr. Mr. Howard an invitation to join a breakout room, and you'll get an invitation to go in there. You'll need to click on that link to go in, and then I'll bring y'all back in a few minutes. I show it's 11:28 now. Mr. Howard, I'll bring you back in at about 11:32 if you need more time. And we'll take that out. Thank you.
Thank you.
All All right, y'all should be getting an invitation to join that breakout room. If you'll click on that link and go in there. The rest of y'all stand by. We'll take a short recess. We'll resume here in about 3 or 4 minutes. Thank you.
Here, that's it, man. Okay, give my let him hold his water anyway. Don't drop it, okay? Don't drop it. Huh? You gonna sit down, Paul? Let's sit down. Let's see if we can sit down. All right, ready? Oh. Baby. How's baby doing? Oopie-doo. Oopie-doo. What? Good. Yeah, I'm doing
In your back.
so we could toast it right there.
That's why I'm coming over here. Me salgo para afuera. Por cuarto.
Miss Jed, I'll bring them back in now.
Okay.
We're back on the record in cause number CV 2011478 in the interest of Memphis Morgan. All right, Mr. Howard, are you ready to proceed with your questions for case order?
I am subject to recall. I don't have any questions right now on Ms. Garms.
Okay. All right, thank you. Let's see, Ms. Miller.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Garms, there was a discussion regarding Mr. Morgan's childcare for both of the children that he has in his house. Have you been able to talk to him about that?
Yes, he's receiving childcare for Alex, his older child, and we're working on getting it for Memphis as well.
Okay, but he's located a daycare, the same daycare. We just need to do the paperwork. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and when do you anticipate that will be straightened out?
It should be starting sometime next week.
Good deal. Thank you very much. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Timmons, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Garms, does the dad have some sort of pending criminal charges?
He does, but there's nothing moving forward with that at this time.
Okay. Is it felony charges or misdemeanor charges?
I'm not aware of which one that is.
Okay. And so do you know if he's been indicted or anything about the status of that?
The only thing he has been done is been indicted, and there's no further action happened at this time.
Okay. So no court date set at this time or anything like that?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Britton, any additional questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Any other questions for Ms. Garms from anyone? Mr. Britton, did you have other witnesses?
I have nothing else, Judge.
All right. Mr. Howard, do you have someone that you want to call?
I do. I'll call Johaida Brown.
All right. Thank you. All right. Ms. Brown, let's see. Yeah, you're muted. Go ahead.
Okay. Ms. Brown, you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't see it. Okay, there you are. So, Ms. Brown, I guess I'll start this off. You have a child with Mr. Morgan, is that right?
Yes, sir.
You understand he's the dad and you're the mom, and that at some point, hopefully CPS will get out of y'all's life and y'all be able to co-parent.
Correct.
Okay, and so that's what ultimately that's what you want.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so Memphis has been placed with, I guess, your parents, is that right?
That is correct.
How long has he been there?
About 8 to 9 months.
Okay. And he's about a year old, is that right?
He's about 1.5 years. Yes, sir.
Okay, so half of his life he's been placed with them, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and let's talk about you briefly. Reviewing your participation in this case, you ultimately went to Serenity House, haven't you? Didn't you?
Yes, sir.
You successfully completed Serenity House.
I did.
Okay. And looking at the permanency report, I think this is the first time you and I have been in front of this judge together.
Yes.
Sounds like it looks like maybe you had one relapse after Serenity House.
Mhm.
Is that yes? But since that relapse, you've been completely clean.
Correct.
And you have tested clean consecutive enough times to be able to see Memphis.
Yes, that's right.
And do you have your own house now?
I do have my own apartment.
And how did you get that?
Actually, a coworker handed over the lease to me. So,
Okay. And you're paying for that yourself?
yes, sir.
Where are you working?
I am working at Clark's Big Country Pharmacy. It's a dermatology.
Okay. And what do you do at Clark's?
I am a certified pharmacy technician.
Okay. And how long have you been at Clark's?
Since March.
Okay. after your release from Serenity House, I guess.
Right, it was right after.
And you heard Ms. Garms talk about some assessments that you haven't done. Have you done your psychological assessment?
I have done them. I've already told my counselor. I guess he just forgets. So it would be nice for Gwen to call it there and get the forms that she needs.
When did you complete that?
Oh gosh, maybe at least 3 weeks ago.
I think there was a mental health assessment, maybe. Have you done that?
Yes, I believe we did them all together.
Okay. And you're currently in counseling.
Correct.
Okay. And so what I'm getting at, Ms. Brown, is, since the last court hearing, you're doing really well in your services.
Yes.
And you understand there's more work to do, but you want the judge to know, and you're proud of what you've done.
Yes, I am very proud.
Okay. So you understand that the department is recommending a monitored return of Memphis to his father today, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I know the two engaged workers said that you had some concerns, so let's get to it.
Okay.
You have a couple of concerns as far as him being returned to his dad right now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. One is in relation to the criminal case that was just asked about.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's talk about that briefly.
Okay.
So it's, to your knowledge, has Mr. Morgan been indicted on a criminal felony case?
Yes, he has.
And is that an assault family violence against you?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay. And do you know when that indictment was returned?
It was actually May 12th. It was the day before.
And previously, regarding the events of that indictment, was there a protective order from Mr. Morgan preventing him from being around you?
Yes, sir. There was in the beginning. I'm not sure now.
Okay. So you're not sure if a protective order still exists, or perhaps it's a condition of his bond that he can't be around you?
Right. I'm not sure about that.
So all those circumstances raise a concern as far as your child being returned to him.
Yes.
Okay. And the fact that he's been indicted is a material event for you, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the other concern has to do with the reaction, I guess, of this child when the child returns home after the unsupervised visits.
Yes, sir. My mom can do this. He does have nightmares every time he comes home from Jacobs. And I think there was more, but I want my mom to, I don't want to get it mixed up.
Okay. And so I just want the judge to hear from you. And so, Ms. Brown, is there anything else involving the monitor return you want the judge to know at this time?
My son has been with my parents for the last 8 to 9 months, and he's doing great. I just feel like he would be safer there for now.
Okay. Do you think that if the judge does grant the monitored return or slows it down or whatever the judge decides to do, that your parents need to be involved as far as visitations and things like that with the child?
Yes, of course.
Okay. All right, Ms. Brown, I don't have any other questions. Some other attorneys are going to have some questions for you. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Britton, did you have any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Miller?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Ms. Brown, the indictment that Mr. Morgan recently received was out of the same facts and circumstances that had to do with the removal of this child with Memphis, correct?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
The assault happened in February of last year.
Okay. And then you were in a relationship with Mr. Morgan, and the child was subsequently removed. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And at the time of the assault and at the time of the removal, you were testing positive for amphetamines and methamphetamines. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And at the time of the removal, Mr. Morgan tested negative for both of those things. Is that right?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So it's fair to say that his indictment has to do with facts and circumstances and things that happened before the removal took place. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, but it all had to do with you and Jacob being in a not so healthy relationship. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and the two of y'all chose to get back into a relationship despite the existence of that protective order, correct?
After the protective order, yes.
Yeah, and so that that may or may not have been the smartest thing to do, but that's what happened, right?
Yes.
I mean, it happened, yeah. So Memphis has been having, and I think he's on the screen with us here, but Memphis has been having visitation unsupervised with Jacob for a while, correct?
I believe so.
Okay, and overnights?
Yes.
Okay, and he has another little sibling in the house of Mr. Morgan's with whom he's really bonded, right?
Yes.
Okay, and that's not your child, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we kind of have a tangled family situation here, but we've got two little boys, and they're both either living with or having unsupervised visitation with Jacob, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so obviously your parents' contribution to Memphis's upbringing so far has been really important, right?
Yes.
And it would be reasonable until you could have some unsupervised or more visitation with Memphis that that your parents, you're asking that they continue to have some visitation with the child, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and what would you like for that to look like if he does go back on a monitored return today?
I don't even know.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Brown. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, let's see. Ms. Timmons, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Has there been any sort of abuse since the removal in this case?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to go, I mean, can you explain that?
So the last time the abuse happened was in January.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask for some more specificity in terms of dates, the removal date, and which January we're talking about.
All right, Ms. Simmons, could you have a witness clarify the dates we're talking about, please?
Sure, Your Honor. Which January are you talking about? 2021 or 2020?
This year, 2020.
Okay. And what happened in January 2021?
I was, we were in the bedroom and I was on the phone and we were like arms length from each other and he threw a football as hard as he could at me.
Okay. Any other incidences?
This year, no.
Okay. All right, I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, let's see. Let me come back. Mr. Howard.
Miss Brown, you and I have met in person recently, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And it's really hard for you to, express, some personal things, I guess, online in front of the world. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're working through some of those things in counseling. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what I'm getting at is this is really difficult for you.
Very.
Okay. And at the beginning, you said that you were hopeful at the end of all this that you can co-parent with Jacob.
Yes, sir. That's what I want.
And that's your
Be
ultimate
civil.
goal. Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Correct.
I'll pass the witness. Thank you.
Brendan, any other questions?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Miller?
Honor, thank you. Ms. Brown, the removal in this case happened in November of 2020, correct? Right?
Yes.
Okay, and you and Mr. Morgan were still trying to make a relationship work over the holidays and into January of 2021, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and you were still testing for positive substances through that time period, right?
From November to January.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Right, but you're obviously doing much better now.
of course.
Okay. And did you, when Mr. Morgan, or when you alleged that he threw that football at you, did you tell anybody or did you make a police report?
No.
Okay. All right. No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Timmons, any other questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Howard, did you have other witness want to call?
I think I will call one of the, like Mr. De Leon. I'll call him briefly.
Let me see. I don't know that I swore him in. Mr. De Leon, would you raise your right hand, please? You solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give today before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you could unmute your device, please.
Do what?
Oh, there you go. Thank you. All right, go ahead, Mr. Howard.
So, Mr. De Leon, you are Jahida's father, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you have been the placement for Memphis for the last 7 or 8 months.
Correct.
Okay. And I think we've expressed that perhaps that your family has some concerns with the child going back with the dad on a monitored return. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And some of those concerns
Yes,
are, and part of that concern is perhaps the reaction that the child has had when he's returned from those visits. Is that right? Has the child had, I'll rephrase the question. Has the child had nightmares or been difficult to deal with when the child's returned from the visits with his father?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir, he has.
Okay, and are those concerning to you?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
it
can
is concerning.
you explain to the judge exactly what's happening there?
Well, when he comes back, he's all fired up and just going all the time, mad, angry. Wakes up at night crying. Just totally different man.
Okay, and has this happened after every
He's
visit?
totally
or is it-
different when he comes back.
Mr.
He
De
comes
Leon,
with a lot of anger.
sure. Mr. De Leon, has this happened after every visit or is it, or just after one?
Yes, after every visit.
Okay.
And it just gets me to wonder what's going on because I don't know.
Okay.
He's never been like that angry or mad.
Okay. And so, Mr. De Leon, that's your main concern is how the child reacts to the visits. Do you have any other concerns?
The way he reacts and the way his Jacob's temper is, and he blows up.
Protection.
Who's going to take it out on me?
Doesn't have any firsthand knowledge.
Also,
I got a text message he sent to me where he's got a temper.
Mr. De Leon.
Yes, sir.
Now, you need to listen to the instruction of the court. If I sustain an objection, you need to stop talking until I get finished. And then Mr. Howard can follow up with you. You may be able to ask it another way. Go ahead, Mr. Howard.
And so, Mr. De Leon, I'm not sure you hear very good on audio, so just let me ask the questions. And so you said that you're concerned with the child's reactions to the visits. Do you believe that Mr. Morgan has a temper?
Yes, I do.
Why do you believe that?
He sent me a text a while back about the temper he has. He didn't know how to control it. He was trying.
Okay.
That's why I know.
And you heard your daughter talk about what she hopes at the end of this case, as far as being able to parent this child with Mr. Morgan. Do you have that same hope?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. De Leon, do you have any other concerns that you want the judge to know about returning the child to his dad at this point?
No, not at this point. That's my main concern is the way Jacob's going to take care of the two kids with us. I mean, it takes a lot to take care of a kid. Everybody knows, everybody's raised kids, so everybody knows how much it takes, how much patience it takes. And I don't know how he would do it.
Okay, and I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask so the judge hears. You would like to continue on as far as having visits and seeing Memphis and helping with this process in the future?
Of course I would, yes.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you. Mr. Britton, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Miller.
Thank you, Your Honor. Memphis, I believe we've seen him a couple of times on screen, but could you remind us how old he is?
He's 1.5 years.
I'm sorry, I was speaking to Mr. DeLeon.
Oh, yes, ma'am. He's 1.5 years.
Okay. And so he's too young to communicate his thoughts and feelings through words, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And he's been spending weekends or overnights with Mr. Morgan, correct?
I believe he stayed one night, and then the next time he stayed 2 nights.
Okay, so he's been having overnight visits, and then when he comes home, he's been acting out, correct?
Correct.
But he can't tell you why he's acting out, correct?
No, he can't. No.
Okay, and it might be because he wants to stay with his dad, but you don't know, right?
No, but when they pick him up, you can ask Gwen how much he throws a fit. And as soon as he sees us, when my wife picks him up, he'll just come crying to her.
Okay, but you testified earlier that he threw a fit once he came home. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions.
He's real happy to be home and angry because he had to leave.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Timmons, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Let's see, Mr. Howard, do you have other witnesses?
Don't, Judge.
All right. Ms. Miller, any witnesses?
I'll call Jacob Morgan, please.
All right. Mr. Morgan, I believe I swore you in. You remain under oath. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan, you understand that 2Engage is recommending that the child be returned to you on a monitored return, correct? I can't hear you. You might need to come closer to the microphone.
Yes.
Okay. And Memphis has been having overnights with you. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And in fact, he's bonded very well with Alexander, the other child in your home. Is that correct?
Yes, they're starting to. At first they weren't, but now they are.
And Big Brother was jealous of Little Brother. Is that correct?
It was more little brother. Little brother was jealous of Big Brother.
Big Brother. Okay. So there was just some typical sibling rivalry going on there. Is there anything that you haven't been able to handle in terms of having the two little boys at home with you?
No, I do pretty good. The only fears I have is the daycare. You know, I have a great babysitter, so there's not really any worries.
Okay. But that person has been approved by the department and you're working on funding for that person?
They've been approved.
Okay, very good. So as far as the visitation with or returning home to Mr. DeLeon or going back and forth between the houses, how does Memphis react when he sees you?
He comes up to me and he'll just like hug me the whole time for about the first 30 minutes, and then we'll start playing and just doing activities.
Okay, so he's a little bit clingy when y'all first get together? Okay. Do you, and you've obviously heard what Mr. DeLeon has said about him acting out when he comes home, right?
Right. Yes, I heard that.
When it's time for Memphis to go home from your house, what is Memphis's reaction?
Sometimes he cries when I say bye and has shut the door, but you know, he listens pretty good. I mean, there's nothing really crazy.
Okay. And do you think that it's reasonable while he's, if he's returned to your home by the court today on a monitored return, that maybe you do some weekends or some other visitation with Mr. and Ms. DeLeon?
Yes, I'd never keep him away from them.
Okay. And you've had a good relationship with them previously, is that right?
It's been an up and down, which it's understandable with the assault and
Right.
stuff towards Shahida.
Okay. And I'd like to turn for that for just a moment. You were indicted within the last month for something that happened in January of this year. Is that right?
Happened last year, but I was
Last
indicted.
Okay. All right. So you were indicted in 2021 for something that happened in 2020. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you mentioned that there was a protective order between you and Ms. Brown, but you all kind of blew that off and disregarded that. Is that correct?
Yes, it was 90 days, and after the 90 days, we started seeing each other again, and actually moved to Abilene together.
Okay. All right. So is it fair to say that that indictment had to do with circumstances when either or both of you were doing drugs?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And you don't deny that?
No.
Okay. But you have had clean drug tests in this case for how long?
Over a year.
Okay. And is there any reason that your temper or your behavior should escalate or be out of control at this point?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And you're going to counseling, right?
Correct.
Okay. And a gentleman there in Abilene.
Yes, ma'am.
And is that one of the things that you've been working on?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
it's one of them.
Okay. And how long do you feel like it's been since you've lost your temper or gotten out of control?
I can't really remember, to be honest with you. It's been a while.
Is it fair to say that it all had to do with the drugs and the relationship?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Britton, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Howard?
Mr. Morgan, you were indicted for felony assault, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And is it a felony because of previous assault convictions?
Yes and no. I think the circumstances of the assault was already a felony.
Okay. So do you know if occlusion or choking or anything is part of that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And are there previous assault convictions prior to this conviction?
Yes.
Okay. And so, Mr. Morgan, I think you said it was understandable. Do you understand where the concerns from Ms. Brown and her parents come from?
Yes.
Okay. And you're telling this judge, and I guess them as well, that you've addressed those in counseling and those won't be a concern any longer.
Yes, I addressed them and they won't be a concern.
Okay. And do you have the same hope that Ms. Brown does, that y'all can co-parent in Memphis?
Yeah, I believe we do. We
Okay.
can.
And there was a protective order. Do you know if there's any conditions on your bond allowing you or not allowing you to be around Ms. Brown?
I'm not aware of any conditions.
Okay. And Ms. Brown is the victim on that pending assault. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you. Let's see. Ms. Timmons?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Miller, any additional questions?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Morgan, just to clarify those prior assault convictions, it was a prior assault conviction and it was a misdemeanor, correct?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Morgan?
Yes, Judge. Mr. Morgan, what kind of visitation schedule have you been having with the child?
It was right now. It's at overnight unsupervised.
Okay. How often is that?
It's been the last 2 weeks, I believe. Yes, sir.
Okay. So over the last 2 weeks, you've had one overnight. I mean, so you
Two, I think. Yes, two. And one was 2 nights, and the other one was one.
Okay. And so, do you live in Abilene? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And how does the child get to Abilene?
The caseworker, Gwen.
So what time of the day do those visits usually start?
In the mornings.
So Gwen, Ms. Garms brings the child to you sometime in the morning. And then
That's correct.
one time you had him one night and then one time you had him 2 nights.
Correct.
And are those the only 2 overnight visits you've had?
I'm trying to think back. I'm pretty sure, yes, sir, but I may have had one more. But I've had a lot of unsupervised where he was just here for 2 hours, 8 hours.
Okay.
And 2 one night and 1 2 night.
I have nothing further, Judge.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Morgan?
Judge, a follow-up. Mr. Morgan, just for full disclosure, you've been convicted of 1 assault in the past. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay, but you've had criminal cases pending on you way back to like year 2000. Is that correct?
When I was, yeah.
Okay. Well, what I'm getting at is, have you seen the affidavit in this case that originally started the removal of the child?
No, sir, I haven't read it.
Okay. And if that affidavit had approximately 3 pages of previous run-ins with law enforcement, terroristic threats, assault charges, and things like that, do you have any reason to disagree with that? Okay.
I'm going to object. I mean, he said already that he hasn't reviewed the affidavit. And if there's something to introduce into evidence, let's do it.
Well, it's asked and answered, Your Honor.
Well, I think in fairness, if you're going to ask him about it, so it might take a while. I think if you're going to ask it, I think you need to go through him. Just so you're aware, he's aware of what you're asking about. If he's not saying it, I'm not sure how he can answer about what he may or may not have been charged with or been arrested for.
Okay, well, I'll ask it this way.
Stipulate to the criminal convictions. We're not going to stipulate to allegations in the affidavit that we don't have any proof of other than what's in the affidavit, but we agree that there has been a criminal conviction, and we'll agree to that and stipulate to that.
Thank you. Mr. Howard, you ready to proceed?
I am. Mr. Morgan, on March 26, 1999, you remember being charged with injury to a child?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you remember being placed on deferred adjudication for 6 months?
No, I do not.
Okay. And do you remember on April 2nd, 1999, being charged with a terroristic threat?
I remember that. I didn't mean no, I don't.
Okay. Do you remember in September 2000 being charged with an assault?
Against my bigger brother? Yeah.
All right. Okay. And so, Mr. Morgan, let me get to it this way. Have you had previous involvements with law enforcement where you were placed on probation, deferred for assaults or terroristic threats?
Yes.
Okay. And by previously, we're talking more than just this one assault.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, any additional questions?
Not for this witness.
All right, thank you. Mr. Britton?
No, I have nothing further, Judge.
Ms. Timmons?
No, Your Honor.
All right, let's see. Ms. Miller, do you have some other witness you want to call?
Yes, I'd like to recall Gwen Garms, please.
Okay, Ms. Garms, you remain under oath. Thank you. Go ahead.
Ms. Garms, is you're aware of this assaultive and alleged assaultive conduct, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any reason to think that it has to do with anything other than substance use?
No, I don't have any reason to believe it's related other than that.
Okay. And with whom has Mr. Morgan been in counseling?
With Brian Hudspeth.
Okay. And how long has he been in counseling with Mr. Hudspeth?
He's been in counseling for a good 6 months or so.
Okay. And he's been in counseling with Mr. Hudspeth in the other CPS case. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So we're looking at over a year, correct?
Yeah.
And have you received counseling notes from Mr. Hudspeth?
Yes, I receive them routinely.
Okay. And what is covered in terms of the counseling? Is this assaultive behavior or alleged assaultive behavior discussed or covered during counseling?
The assaultive behavior, his background for his childhood, and then parenting.
Okay. So from Mr. Morgan's own childhood and his parenting?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any concern at all about Mr. Morgan being assaultive towards the children in his home right now?
No.
Okay.
I do not have any concern.
And in fact, he has another child in his home who was returned as part of a CPS case, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And so all of the things we've talked about today, from 1999, from the year 2000, all the way up until the year 2020, those things were all in evidence and part of the prior CPS cases, correct?
That is correct.
Yet a child was still returned to him, right?
Yes,
And you have been in Mr. Morgan's home, is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay, and you have reviewed his psychological evaluations and counseling notes.
Yes.
Okay, do you have any concerns at all about any matter about this child going into Mr. Morgan's home?
No, I do not.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Britton, any additional questions? All right, Mr. Britton, did you have any other questions? No?
I was muted, Judge. No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Howard
No.
and Ms. Timmons.
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Miller, did you have any other witnesses you want to call? Ms. Miller, did you have other witnesses you want to call?
No, Your Honor, thank you. Sorry.
Ms. Timmons, do you have other witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
All right. All parties rest. Any closing argument from the department on the monitor return?
Judge, I would just reserve the right to respond.
Okay. Let's see, Mr. Howard.
Judge, I mean, I don't have any closing argument. I think you heard from my client and her parents about what the concerns are. And I mean, I think they're real concerns. And so that's our position. I'm sorry. Yeah, they're not as concerned. They're not as convinced that those concerns have been addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller.
Your Honor, I'd encourage Mr. Howard to request and review the counseling notes for Mr. Morgan and any other information that would be available as part of the CPS case in terms of making that allegation. This is why we have CPS cases. People don't wind up in CPS cases because they have perfect histories. And Mr. Morgan has been very honest and upfront about his history. He is an excellent parent, not only of this child, but of his two other children. And if these were concerns, I would think that they would have been brought up in the year 2018, 2019, and 2020 as part of other CPS proceedings where children have been returned to him. So there's no reason that this child shouldn't be returned to his home today. Nothing further.
Thank you. Ms. Timmons, do you have a recommendation on the monitor return?
Yes, Your Honor. After hearing the evidence, I'm in agreement with the department as to the monitored return.
Thank you. Well, the court's going to continue the department as temporary managing conservator of the child. I understand some of the concerns, but I also have to credit the progress that Mr. Morgan has made in the case and in the other case as well. And based on that and based on the parental presumption, I find I'm going to need to grant the motion for monitor return. So I'll approve the monitor return of the child to Mr. Morgan. I am going to order the department to make frequent visits to the home, check on the safety and welfare of the child. The monitor return will start once the daycare is set up. It's not start until that's in place. So I understood that'll be next week sometime. So I direct the department to get that done, get it set up so that can be in place. And then I'm directing the department to make frequent visits to the home, at least weekly for the first couple of months, to check on the safety and welfare of the child. I'm also directing the department to facilitate with Mr. Morgan and the grandparents visitation on a bi-weekly basis, where they can have them on the weekends every other week for first couple of months. So we have another hearing coming up in September, and we can evaluate where we are at that point. But I want them to have contact with them, and the department can work with Ms. Brown about her visitation in connection with that. The next hearing in the case right now is set on September 2nd, 2021 at 10 a.m. It's a permanency hearing. A trial is set November 4th, 2021 at 3 p.m. and the dismissal date is November 22nd, 2021. I'm required to notify any parent in this type of case that because of the nature of these proceedings, your parental custodial rights and duties to your child may be subject to restriction or even termination. And in progress, any court orders or planned service will be reviewed at future hearings in this case. That will be adjourned for today. Thank you.